Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I feel like Nicole every time I say that. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Dave?
Yeah, pretty good. Good to see you this week. You've been pretty busy over the last couple of weeks getting ready for your move, right?
Oh yeah, I've been very busy. I got all my solar panels out and set them up in the driveway and did a video showing everybody my solar panels. And today I recorded a video showing the inside of my camper trailer before I start loading crap into it.
Mm,
Um, it all depends on the weather and how things go. I'm still thinking I'm going to be about 2 more weeks before I go south, but
right.
if the weather looks like it's going to change, I will load faster and go even sooner. But I'm not worried about it since I got my Starlink. Um,
Mm,
I can, with the way that thing sets up, I can pull off to the side of the road anywhere in the country, set
right.
up the Starlink in 5 minutes, and be online with you in 10 minutes or less.
So are you
So
on Starlink right now?
no, I'm at home on my home internet because I have
Oh,
blazing fast internet here at the house. I have gigabit internet at the house, but Starlink is still really fast compared to some of the other places I've been, like when I was living in the church parking lot last winter down in North Carolina. The internet there was just terrible. It was stable, but it could take anywhere from 10, 12 hours to upload a uh, a 20-minute video to YouTube. So
right.
that, it took a whole day to get an upload done down there. And even setting the dish up to test it in my yard, in a place where the Starlink app told me not to set it up, I still got really good speeds that are about twice as fast as the speeds I
Mm,
had here at home before I switched from cable from the cable internet I had to the fiber optic line I have now. So
right.
it's about twice as fast as my old connection was before I upgraded to gigabit. So
Oh,
it should
nice.
be plenty fast enough
Mm,
to get
nice.
everything done. Because really, all I need it for, besides doing the live streaming, is uploading and downloading videos and watching, you know, Amazon Prime and other things on my laptop as my TV when I get down to Texas. So it should be fine.
Yeah. Nice.
And the best part about this is it's very power efficient. The When
Ah,
Starlink first came out, you got a great big dish and a router that sat in your house, and
mm,
all of that stuff used power. It would on average use about 100 watts of power
right.
to in a constant flow to keep it on. And the new Starlink Mini that I have, everything's built into the dish. So the dish itself is about the size of a piece of paper. It's a 12 by 10 dish, 12 inches by 10 inches, and it's only about 2 inches thick. And the router and everything else is built right into the dish. So when I had it plugged into my portable power station, it was only pulling about 20 watts of power.
Right.
So on one of my smaller power setups, I can run Starlink for days without
Mm,
even worrying about charging the battery back up. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out when I get there. But
nice.
that's enough Starlink talk. Let's get into some carnivore conversation with these people here. I see Dutch is here
Yeah.
and
So
KB is here.
yeah, thanks for coming in, guys. As you come in, let us know where you're coming in from. Say hello. And also, if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to discuss, please put a big Q in front of it, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Um,
Yeah. And I see Sherry
hey, Patricia, how you doing?
is here from almost in the Helene zone. And I now understand what they're talking about with Starlink being in the area for people to use, plus
Mm,
this whole cashless society they've been trying to move us to. I keep hearing horror stories from people that were trapped in the hurricane zone where they couldn't even go to the store and buy a bottle of water because all of the internet was down, so they couldn't use their credit cards.
mm,
So they were just stuck because nobody carries cash anymore. And I've heard Elon Musk took a whole bunch of Starlinks into the area and got
mm.
internet up and running again for the people that didn't have power yet. So hopefully, Sherry, everything is slowly returning to normal for you there.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it is returning to normal. It's pretty scary about the cash thing, right? I mean, I might use my credit card a lot because I like collecting points, but it's pretty scary that a lot of places don't want you to be paying in cash.
Yeah, and I do keep money in my checking account so that I can use my card if I run into some of those things. But
Mm.
I'm not ashamed to admit that every time I get paid, I run to the bank and withdraw a certain amount of money so that I
Right.
always have cash on hand as well. I'm not going
Yeah.
to say how much, and I'm certainly not going to tell anybody where it is, but I do always have cash on hand because you just never know what could happen. And if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, as I've seen on many memes, if you have a car that runs on gasoline and some cash in your wallet, you can still go do whatever it is that you want to go do, even if it's run to the store, buy a ribeye steak, and bring it
Mm.
home and throw it on the grill. If
Right.
you're relying on an electric car with electric payment options when you get to the store, first, how are you going to get to the store? And then how are you going to pay for that ribeye steak
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
everything else is down?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty scary. Um, Cherry says the roads were washed out too. Wow. Yeah. Brandon, hello from Bangkok. How you doing, Brandon? That's pretty early in Bangkok. It must be like 4:30 in the morning there. Wow.
Yeah, I got a
That's
couple of
very early.
friends that live in Thailand. Well, they're
Yeah.
both YouTubers. Nick Nimmin, who runs a big
Ah, does he
YouTube
live in
channel,
Thailand?
he lives in Thailand, and his
Ah.
brother D lives over there
Mm,
too. And they, of course, come back to the States quite often for um, conferences and things like that, YouTube type gatherings. But they live in Thailand because it's so much cheaper.
mm, yeah. Yeah, it's Thailand, I guess it's I don't know if it's still like this, but like the Philippines used to be at least. It's like everything's so cheap.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's gotten more popular recently, and it's not quite as cheap as it used to be, but
Mm,
it's still, if you compare it to, say a two-bedroom apartment in Thailand as opposed to a two-bedroom apartment in New York City,
mm,
you can get a two-bedroom
yeah.
apartment anywhere in Thailand for, 10% of what you'd pay in New York City.
Yeah, potentially next to the beach as well.
Yeah, potentially you could, if you want to live next to a beach, you can live next to a beach. If you want to live out in the middle of nowhere, you can live out in the middle of nowhere. That I found all
Mm,
of that very attractive and was considering all of that. I did eventually settle on this square of land behind me down in West Texas, but
mm,
I did consider retiring overseas as well because of the difference in
mm.
cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy has a question for us. Do either of you eat seafood? What do you eat daily? I sometimes have salmon or sardines, but basically I stick to the ground beef or the sliced beef. How about you, Bob?
Yeah, as far as what I eat daily, 95% of my diet is ground beef and eggs.
Mm,
I do occasionally eat seafood. once in a while, because I keep cans of tuna in the house, and I will occasionally mix a can of tuna in with my ground beef just to up the omega-3 count. And sometimes I put a can of salmon in there. And then for actual seafood, every once in a great while, I'll buy some sausage
Mm-hmm.
and chop that up into the pan, and then get frozen shrimp and have a
Mm.
big skillet full of sausage and shrimp. Um, that's what I had for my birthday meal back in May. And I do
Mm.
that just a couple of times a year because the sausage that I buy is the lowest carb sausage I can find, but sausage all has some sort of carb in it. But
Right.
I figure for the occasional treat meal, so to speak, I can put up with a few carbs in the sausage links, and it mixes very nicely as the grease comes off the sausage,
Right. Right.
getting the shrimp fried in the sausage grease.
Oh, nice.
Very, very
Nice.
nice.
Mm. Making me hungry again. I've
Yeah.
got to stop. I've got to stop doing these live streams before I've eaten breakfast. um, Sweezy, hello from Netherlands. Thanks for tuning in. And Canadian Carnivore, 3 months in and experiencing some benefits already. Awesome.
Good
Nice
for you,
work.
Catherine.
Okay. We've got a question here from Ingrid. I know a couple of people that can't eat beef. How can someone adjust to eating meat if they have problems with digestion? I would be trying to maybe can they how are they with fish and things like that, chicken and things like that? Maybe I would I would maybe start making the majority of my meals the kind of the type of meat that I might be able to eat okay, which might be the lower fat types like fish and chicken, and gradually be adding small amounts of red meat in and see if my body can digest it that way. I'm not sure. How about what are your thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, and the other thing that someone might be having trouble with digesting, that's probably the fat content that's getting them.
Mm,
So I would start with, the leaner fishes, chicken, pork, things like that, and slowly up the fat content.
mm,
In the start, you can do that with by adding butter, either cooking it in butter, but then also having a few slices of butter on the side to eat with it. And as you slowly up your fat intake, you should get better at digesting it, because what happens to people when they haven't been eating a lot of fat is their gallbladder will get sluggish. Gallbladder is actually a muscle so that it squeezes the bile out into the stomach to help with digestion. And as you slowly add more fat, the gallbladder will slowly get stronger so that it can squeeze more bile out to help with that digestion. The other thing you can try if your gallbladder just won't keep up with it is you can try some ox bile or some other kind of a supplement to help with digestion. But Dave's suggestion of starting with the leaner meats and slowly building up is probably the best suggestion you're going to get.
mm. I would say probably the last meat you want to be introducing is something like ground beef as well, because of the amount of rendered fat you get out of that. It's like because I found early on I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to eat all the rendered fat, and that was that was going through me very quickly. So yeah, it's
Yes.
yeah. So thank you for your question, Ingrid. Okay, so we got Tamaron Arvin Carnivores. Hello from Texas. How you doing? Thanks for coming in. And that sounds so yum, Marlene. I think she's referring to your birthday dinner
Yeah.
there, Bob.
It was
Yeah.
really, it is really good. And for those that are going to ask, because someone's going to ask, the sausage that I buy is just an andouille sausage, Hillshire Farms.
Mm.
Their other types, their Polish sausage and everything else, says 2 or 3 carbs per serving, but the andouille sausage says 1 carb per serving. There's still
Mm.
6, 8 servings in a package, and I of course eat the whole package at once because who in the heck actually believes that 1 pound of ground beef serves 5 anymore? Certainly not me. I'll eat a
Yeah.
pound and a half of ground beef and half a dozen eggs just to get me warmed up in the morning.
Uh, but what's that meme that goes around? There's like a meme that's got ground beef, picture of ground beef says serves 5, and it says what carnivores see, and then it's got the same picture and it says serves 1.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Uh,
I've seen that one. That's funny.
yeah. Yeah. So the California carnivore having salmon patties for dinner tonight. Salmon, pork rinds, and eggs cooked in a bit of grass-fed tallow. Very nice.
That sounds really, really good. That was
Yeah.
actually my plan when I bought my case of canned salmon. I was planning on making some salmon patties like that, and then decided it was just too much bother because I don't like to spend a lot of time cooking. So when I want to use one of my cans of salmon, I just dump it in with my ground beef, stir it up, get it all hot, and eat it. Because
Mm.
I'm basically a lazy guy when it comes to cooking. But that does sound really good.
Yeah. Again, I've got to stop doing these live streams before breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling. I'm struggling, guys. Uh, so my food addiction. Hello, everyone new here. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
We are glad you're here.
And I hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much. And
Yes.
for anyone else that hasn't hit the like button yet, whoever's channel you're on, please do that. That'll bring more people in. We've currently got 80 people in the stream. Be good to see some more people coming in. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you've got time, especially if you're sitting there on a computer, just open another tab, go to the other person's channel, hit the like button there, and then go back to wherever it was you were watching it. But if you hit like on both channels, it'll push it out to more people, and maybe we can get some more questions. Maybe even the question that you had but forgot about, and then somebody else asks it, and we answer your question too.
yeah. So, Sandra, I don't see how anyone can have a problem with digesting meat. How long have they been eating meat? They still have residual problems from even when they used to eat vegetables, fiber. Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounded like they just probably been eating a low-fat diet all their lives, and they've just transitioned over to carnivore, I guess. Was
And
that your understanding, Bob?
that was my, and she asked the previous question asked specifically about beef, and
Mm.
since ribeyes are the thing everybody in the carnivore community talks about, the fat content on ribeyes is fairly high. Perhaps they
Mm.
could try a skirt steak or a flank steak or a
Mm.
sirloin, something with a lower fat content to start with. But
Yeah.
I not knowing all of the specifics, I can't really go into it any more than that. But I do
Mm.
know some people do have problems. The first time I ate a big chunk of fatty meat when I first transitioned to this, let's just to keep it a bit more civilized, we'll just say I had bathroom issues from transitioning to carnivore. And the first couple of times I ate a really fatty chunk of red meat, let's just say those issues intensified greatly. And we'll leave it at that.
Mm. Yeah, I like to think of it as becoming liquid deficient or something like that,
Yeah. As Dr. Barry has called it on occasion, the carnivore cleanse.
Right. Okay, we got a question here from BWE1 million. I'm currently OMAD ketovore, but my wife is Japanese and is very against my strict diet, which has kept me from going carnivore. Do you have any tips for me since your wife is also Japanese? Um, so my my way of handling it was just saying, look, I know, and my wife's a nurse as well, so like everything about her work and social life and everything has taught her the exact opposite of what I'm doing. But basically, I said to her, "Look, I'm really sorry. I really enjoy your meals, but I have to eat a particular way for a while. This is when I first started, and it's just I need to fix some things up with my health." And she accepted that, but then of course when she saw what I was doing, she was a little bit shocked, and also she continued to cook meals for me, and so I had to keep saying to her, "Thank you, I appreciate it, but I can't eat it." And that was a little bit tough in the first couple of weeks, but you just have to stay strong, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether other people like it or not. It's your health, and you've got to just kind of go, "I'm sorry, I'm doing this," and eventually things calm down, because you can go out to restaurants and you can still enjoy each other's company, and you can still eat carnivore in a restaurant, or you can still eat carnivore at home and have meals at the same time as your wife. It's an adjustment period. And to me, I think one of the things about Japanese culture, which is different to, say, you know, in America or Australia or England, is people typically don't go, "I'm doing completely the opposite thing to everyone else." Right? They have a saying in Japan, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down." Right? So if someone is doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing, if someone's kind of breaking the harmony, the job of everyone else is to rein them in. And that's in the culture, right? That's not something that people are consciously thinking about all the time. And so if when you're in an environment with Japanese people, I think you also have to understand that you're working against kind of something that's subconsciously in Japanese people, that it's like, well, everyone just does things this way. And so it's important that you have to remember, you've got to be strong. You've got to keep pushing the message that you want to get across. Is my long way of describing it. Sorry, Bob, you were going to say?
No, that's okay. I would just add that whether it's with spouse who's Japanese or family members anywhere in the world, the best thing you can do is show them your progress. Because if you start to get better from where you are now to where you are a month from now, especially someone that sees you every day, they're going to notice very quickly. And while they still may not approve of it, they're going to go, well, it's working for him.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's another thing that helped reduce the tension around my new way of eating about a month or so in. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. We got a question from Susan. Do you need to count grams of protein and fat? I don't. How about you, Bob?
I've never counted anything. The one thing that I have suggested on my channel several times, and I have no science to back this up, but the problem is nobody has any science for any way of eating. But we digest fat based on how much bile our liver makes and stores in the gallbladder. Do you think it's just some random amount that it just makes it because it feels like making it? I think just like everything else with our bodies, there's a very specific amount of bile that our liver produces and concentrates in our gallbladder. And you can find that limit for yourself. by you keep adding more fat until one day you eat a little bit too much fat and you experience the carnivore cleanse, then back off that total just a little bit. And that will be your marker for how much your body can actually handle at one time. And then from there, you just have to keep playing with it till you go, oh, I feel a lot better when I eat this much. Hopefully that answers your question, Susan.
That's good advice. I would just to add to that, I wouldn't do any of that kind of testing immediately before a meeting, because if disaster strikes just before or just after you start a meeting, that can be a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, I would do that test when you've got a couple of days off and can stay home.
Yeah. Okay. And the California Carnivore. Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you for reminding us. Hey, that button ain't gonna poke itself. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it could be I'm really behind with the comments. Whoops. Could be too much rendered fat. Don't eat the liquid fat. Yeah. Okay. We got a question here from Diana. I had my gallbladder removed and still formed a stone that became stuck in my bile duct, which I had removed in August and started the carnivore diet in late August. Will this way of eating? Is there more to this question? Hang on a second. Okay. Let me see if I can. Diana. Is there a rest of a question? I'm not sure where the question. Is there a question in there, Bob? Can you like? Am I gallbladder removed?
No, you should still be fine. Most people, again, as you eat more fat and get used to it, the whole reason you get gallbladder stones or a stone that gets stuck in your bile duct is because you're not using the bile. And as it sits there, it kind of coagulates, I guess is the word you're looking for, and that's how stones can happen. So as long as once you get to the point where you can eat the appropriate amount of fat and that bile keeps moving, you shouldn't get another stone. Now, what happens a lot, and it's the same thing with like kidney stones. Once you start eating a proper human diet, it's not the proper human diet that causes the stone. The stone has probably been there, but as you start to eat a proper human diet, the stone will shrink in size to where it can suddenly start to move, and then it gets stuck somewhere, which is why so many people say, oh, well, I tried carnivore and it gave me a gallstone, or I tried carnivore and it gave me a kidney stone. Well, it didn't really. The stone was probably always there. It just got small enough that your body tried to get rid of it, and it got stuck somewhere. But I'm glad you've had that removed, and just all I can say without further information on this question is to just keep pushing forward. And again, if you don't have a gallbladder, depending on how much you want to eat versus how much your body can take, you might have to go. Dr. Berry has a lot of good videos on ox bile and other such supplements if you don't have a gallbladder anymore. And those are some things you may want to check out. If you need more information, again, the first thing I always suggest to everybody with this type of a question is go spend $5, join Dr. Berry's private group. $5 is a really cheap price to be able to ask him or his wife or any of his very intelligent moderators questions directly.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for joining us, Rick. How you doing?
See, Rick is here, and I saw messages floating by from Dustin, Keto Simple. He's in the house as well.
Dustin's
there he is.
Here too. Good to see you, Dustin. Thanks for coming in. And Ingrid, thank you very much for the super sticker. Appreciate that. And we've got some questions floating around here. Hang on a second. Susan. Okay. Susan, are there a certain amount of fat and protein we should shoot for in a day or just eat and get full? I just eat and get full. How about you, Bob?
I just eat and get full. What I suggest to people, because I don't make recommendations because I'm not qualified to do that, but where most people start is with a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio. So if you're looking at a steak on your plate before you cook it, if about 1/8 of it is fat and the rest of it is the meat, that's about a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio. And then from there, you just have to play around with it to find out where you feel best. Starting at 1-to-1, I know many people that end up getting to a 2-to-1 fat to protein ratio, and some people end up having a little less fat than protein. But most people tend to start at a 1-to-1 fat to protein, and they end up going up from there. Not very many people end up at 2-to-1, but if I had to put a guess on it, I'd say somewhere between a 1.5-to-1 and a 1 3/4 to 1 fat to protein is about where people end up landing and where they feel their best. You just have to slowly increase the fat till you find the point. You do each level for a couple of weeks so that when you wake up in the morning and go, hey, I feel pretty good. I think that's where I'm going to keep it for a while.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, Bob. The important question has a question for Bob. Is it true you don't use medical diagnostics to monitor your health? If so, then why?
I don't see the point in it. I've had triple bypass surgery. I do still take my blood pressure from time to time just to make sure it's where it's supposed to be, but it's almost always within a couple points of 118/68 is where my blood pressure runs. But the whole problem with this medical diagnostics to monitor your health, I think the best diagnostic tool is how do you feel and what are you able to do? Because most of the tests that are out there are based, their normal ranges are based on the bell curve from what everybody else is doing. We don't do what everybody else is doing. We are carnivores. Our labs are different. That's why most of us have higher cholesterol. Is that bad? I don't believe it is. But as long as we feel good, what is a medical test going to show us? I work for how I can perform the things I want to do, as opposed to trying to land within these so-called normal ranges of things on tests. Yeah, I don't do any of that. I'm not an idiot. I do still go see my cardiologist every year because I have had a triple bypass surgery, but I haven't been to a regular doctor or gotten lab work done in more than a year now because I just don't feel it's necessary. The last time I had it checked, my A1C was 4.8. I haven't changed my diet. I haven't suddenly started eating pizza and candy bars again. So I see no reason why it would go up. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, just as you're answering that, Bob, I'm just going through and marking some questions up.
Sure.
And I noticed, Susan, thank you so much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. If you've got a question, please let us know. But thank you so much for that. Oh no, now I've lost the one I bookmarked. What am I doing? You shouldn't let me loose on technology, Bob.
I don't know. You're
Okay.
okay.
Vintage Carnivore. So Belle, how are you doing? Recently had blood work done. Cholesterol, LDL skyrocketed. I expected it to go up, but it kind of scared me. Doctors said I have to go on statins, although trigs were low. Cholesterol 6.2, 6.4 to 11.9, LDL 4.6 to 9.5. I have to do a conversion here. I in Japan we work on the American system.
Well,
Um,
while you're doing those conversions, I'll jump in here, Dave,
yeah.
and say the first thing I would do is not worry about it. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. This is not medical advice, but everything that I've shown and seen and heard, cholesterol does not cause heart disease. It is controlled by our genes, and it reacts to whatever environment it's in. I'm assuming that you've seen Nick Norwitz's video where he lowered his cholesterol quite remarkably with Oreo cookies versus statins. I would never put a statin in my body. Statins have huge side effects. And if you actually look at the diagnostics, the information that they give you, they will say, oh, well, this statin will reduce your risk of heart disease by 50%. And while technically that's true, that's the relative position. If you look at it on actual numbers, you'll discover that the difference is between 0.5 and 1.0. So if you extrapolate that out over a normal 100-year lifespan, at the very best, statins will get you 8 extra days, given those numbers. And are you willing to take all of those side effects for 8 extra days? Now I'll throw it back to you, Dave, because you're probably done with your conversions now.
Yeah. So, Bell, just and for everyone watching, the conversion is if we're talking just LDL, um, Bell's LDL went from 177 to 367. So I would say, Bell, well, I mean, I'm as similar to Bob. I'm not a doctor either, but your LDL is still lower than mine. So, and I'm not panicking. So, the thing for me, as Bob has said, I don't think that LDL is the cause of atherosclerosis. It's not the cause of heart disease. It's as not a doctor, similar to Michael Greger, I will make that call. But the issue with heart disease is all the damage you've done, and LDL happens to be there as it's repairing. I think I haven't been sick since the last time I was sick was August 2022, a couple of months after I started Carnivore. And that's because as a family, we all got COVID together. And I did the best out of all my family members. I didn't have a fever, and I haven't been sick since then. I've had a feeling of like things coming on, and then they never materialize properly. I think cholesterol's protective, and yeah, that's all I can really say. But regarding the point Bob made about the relative risk reduction, I'll put a link in the chat. That's a video that I did regarding that topic and just talking about the effectiveness of statins. After this stream, have a watch of that video. It's it's good to kind of put your mind at rest as far as how much would statins really help me, you know. But what I would be doing, if you're really worried about it, I would go and get a CT angiogram and find out, do I have blockages anywhere? And if I do have blockages, is it calcified or is it soft plaque? And yeah, just start actually, rather than have the doctor say to you, oh, you've got cholesterol, high cholesterol, go on a statin. I would say, okay, well, hang on, doctor, let's kind of investigate back a little bit further. Like, do I have issues that may make things a problem, rather than just you have high cholesterol, go on a statin, because that's the easy thing for the doctor to say.
Yeah. And remember, those were your results on that one particular day. Has he run a repeat series to see if those results are the same a day later? Did you do a heavy workout before you went? There are a lot of variables. And as many of the people that I follow have demonstrated through testing, your cholesterol can go up and down wildly from day to day. And the other thing, after the video that Dave posted in there, if you still want another video, on January the 4th of last year, not 2024, but January 2023, I was talking about cholesterol and the chart that Dr. Berry put out that Professor K uses quite a bit, showing that the optimal cholesterol range is somewhere between 220 and 260. But the bonus of listening to that video is that you get to watch me fall off the trail and take a tumble down a hill, recorded live on the bob cam that I had on my forehead. So you get to see me fall down a hill on trail, and you get to watch my thoughts on the video that Dr. Berry had just put out about a week before, and Professor K uses that chart all the time. So my first thought is just relax, because yes, is there cholesterol in an atherosclerotic plaque? Absolutely. About 5% of it is cholesterol. All the rest of it is something else.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so we've got a follow up here about it from Aid. My distant ancestors didn't count anything, neither do I. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't see too many, men that are out there. Oh, wait a minute, we can't put that cave painting on the wall yet. I got to enter our macros into my calculator before we go out and hunt another piece of animal to kill.
And I've said this so many times, and I keep saying, why are we the only species that needs to worry about counting these things? Whoops, just threw my pen. Why are we the only species that needs to worry about counting these things? Why are we the only species that needs to rely on manufactured boxed foods with nutrition labels? Why are we the only species that needs to constantly go to a doctor to manage our health? I think the answer is pretty clear. We're the only species that has a wallet. And yeah, so I think when you look at it in those terms, maybe it helps you relax a little bit more about it.
If I had a cheer button, I'd push the cheer button right now so that there was cheering on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, I get a little bit of a rant when I react to some of these articles recently. I get a bit ranty.
I understand.
Okay, sorry, I've been a bit lazy. I need to scan through and see if there's any questions here. Dun, dun, dun.
While he searches through that chat for more questions, I will say it is very hard to overeat on carnivore foods. If you're doing at least a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio, to overeat, you have to really push it, and it'll make you not feel good.
So here we go. Art by Una. Hello all. I don't go to the doctor, don't test for anything, but feel great and function better and better. Works for me. And see, this is the thing, like we are told all the time, oh, your cholesterol's high. You need to do something about it. You've got you're sniffling a little bit, get to the doctor, all this kind of thing. You need to manage these things. And at the end of the day, when you go carnivore, yeah, your cholesterol goes up, but you feel better than you ever have. You know, I don't remember feeling this alert about things since I was in high school. I don't remember having as much energy as this pretty much ever in my life. Um, and to me, that's the sign that we're doing the right thing. How do you feel about that, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will refer to Dr. Paul Mason at this point because he's the one I took this from. There is a thing in plants called sterols. If you look at it molecularly, it's just one little piece away from being a carbon copy of cholesterol. So your body actually sees it as cholesterol, and it sucks up these plant sterols into your cholesterol receptors. But once it's collected them, it can't do anything with it because it's not actually cholesterol, which is why when you switch to a proper human diet, your cholesterol goes up because the sterols will eventually get flushed out of your system. And now all of your cholesterol receptors on every cell in your body want cholesterol so that it can do something, all of the great things that it does. It's not like, a third of our brain is cholesterol and the layer around every cell in our body is made of cholesterol. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is. Cholesterol is one of the most important things in the human body. And once you stop dumping plant sterols into your body, that's what naturally makes your cholesterol go up because your body sees the empty cholesterol receptors and says, we got to make some more cholesterol. And always remember, what you're eating has very little to do with what your cholesterol levels are. Your body makes about 80% of all the cholesterol in your body. So if it was dangerous, why would your body make that much of it?
Yeah, that's a really good point. If it was dangerous, so we're the only species that our body has a self-destruct button, and if we eat in a particular way, the body's going to go, "Hang on, I'm not having any of this. Let me produce this poisonous cholesterol." That makes no sense. It's absolutely no sense. Whether you believe in evolution or you believe in intelligent design or whatever you believe, it makes no sense. And sorry, another thing I was thinking just on the cholesterol point is, why would you want to lower your cholesterol when you feel better? Just so you can pass a test with the doctor, just so the doctor can say, "Oh, good job, well done. You got your cholesterol down." It's like, okay, next, like, what? That was it? I just had to pass a test. I just had to get it under 100 for you to be happy. Oh, okay. Well, I'll continue on feeling bad then. Yeah, lost for
Absolutely.
words. I'm on my cholesterol rant. Um, and yeah, as Sandra says, we need cholesterol. Our brain is made of cholesterol. Without cholesterol and being on a plant-based diet, or even just eating sugar and carbs, that will cause dementia and Alzheimer's.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I'm so much clearer now than I was before.
Yeah. We got a question here from KD. I need to go for a physical and labs to get my enzymes because I have exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. I don't care about cholesterol, but how do I get the doc to order a CAC score? I'm not sure because I'm not sure how the system works in America. I guess you're in America. Bob, can you maybe shed some light on this?
Yeah. Well, just tell him you're concerned and to see if you have plaque buildups, you would like to get a CAC test. If he won't order it for you, you can go to Own Your Labs and order it for yourself. You can also, Dr. Barry and Kim Howerton put out a book. I forget the name of it, but it's a book about labs. If you go to one of his videos, you'll find it down there. And in that book is the code that you have to enter under each test that you order so that your insurance will pay for it. So you may need to spend the $6 or $8, whatever they're charging for that book nowadays. Get that book so you have the code so that your insurance will pay for the CAC score. And if it's even
Common
so,
Sense Labs, is that right?
yeah, that's it. Thank you. Common Sense Labs. And even if you can't get anybody to pay for it, they're not that expensive. I mean, a couple of $100, but a couple of $100 for peace of mind is a pretty fair price, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We got. Oh, sorry. That's a response to Keith. Art by Una. My food addiction. It is known that animals who are nutrition deficient have behavior problems. I also seen this in writing. Ah, yeah. Okay. Sorry, that must have been a response to someone. But that's actually a good point. Animals who are nutrient deficient have behavior problems. Look at people.
Yeah, look
We
at
don't.
all of the kids in schools these days. You know, we didn't when Dave and I were kids, they didn't send us off to school with a backpack full of snacks and drinks and a cell phone and all this other stuff. If we got thirsty, we went to the drinking fountain and got a drink of water. And then at lunch, we ate what they served us. And we, lo and behold, managed to make it through an entire day without dying. We actually made it home again to our parents, who then fed us dinner. Now, these kids today are so drugged up because if a little boy can't sit still in class, oh, he's probably got ADHD. Let's give him a drug. And it just, they start drugging these kids from a very early age. And don't get me started on this rant because we only have about 8 minutes left, and I can tear it up for a long 8 minutes talking about what we're doing to our kids today.
Yeah. My daughter used to go to an international school, and one of the reasons we took her out of there was the food that they were served in the cafeteria was just junk. And like it just everything's just processed, ultra processed junk. And like if they bring a lunch with them, kind of makes them stand out like a sore thumb to their friends, right? So it's like it's really weird. And to have vending machines in an elementary school and stuff, it just seems bad. So yeah, drinking water and having minimally processed food is a good thing for kids. Okay, AIDS. When the family dog gets sick, the first thing we ask is, what did the dog eat? Yet when a human gets sick, we prescribe medication. Something's wrong. Very well said, Aid. Very
Yes,
well said.
absolutely. I mean, if you've ever had a pet and taken it to the vet for whatever reason, the first thing a vet asks you, whether it's your sick goldfish, all the way up to your sick dog or sick cat or sick chickens from the backyard, whatever it is, the first thing the vet wants to know is, what have you been feeding it? When was the last time you went to the doctor? And the first thing he wanted to know is, what have you been eating?
Yeah.
That should tell you an awful lot about your doctor.
That's right. So, like, if you went to the doctor because you had some kind of food poisoning or something, right? Some level of food poisoning, the doctor wouldn't be bothered about what you'd eaten. It would just be, what drugs can I prescribe to stop whatever problem is happening. It's just crazy. Okie dokie. What we got? Gennaro Diaz. Greetings from Spain. My LDL is 190, HDL 60, triglycerides 90. The cardiologist did an echocardiogram and told me that my heart is fine. I don't eat sugar or carbohydrates. Oh, nice. Awesome. Yeah. It's,
Yeah, I mean, if you're going by what they say is good, that's a very good lipid profile. But,
mm,
all I can say is from my last visit to the cardiologist is that my CAC score went down and my ejection fraction went up, which are both good things.
mm.
And hello to you. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Josephine has a question. Bob, when you walk around, did you ever feel like your upper legs were burning or sore?
No, my whole problems with walking when I first started walking again was my spinal stenosis made my back hurt. I couldn't stand for more than a couple of minutes without the lower part of my back and the lower lumbar region just getting. It felt like somebody was pushing a hot poker into my back. And
Mm,
the longer I stood, the more intense it got. But my legs have always been fairly strong, even for an old fat guy, because up until about 10 years ago, I always danced. I've taken dance classes, not country, western, and that stuff. I did tap, ballet, jazz, all that kind of stuff from the time I was about 4 years old until the time I was about 40, but somewhere between 45 to 48 is when all of my problems got to the point where I couldn't go to dance class anymore. But
mm,
no, my legs have always been very strong. They had to
mm.
be. They were carrying a 350-pound fat guy around. And as I used to say to friends of mine, when they say, "How you feeling today, Bob?" I said, "Well, my legs hurt a little bit. They feel like they've been carting a fat guy around all day."
Oh, that's funny. Um, okay, Teresa, any tips to fight the initial cravings for carbs or carb sugar addiction in general? Um, my tip is take a day at a time. Um, just focus on getting to bed day one without having anything. Don't think beyond that because often the cravings get worse when you think into the future. Just focus on getting to bed today without eating anything. Then you'll feel better when you wake up the next day. You'll have slightly stronger resolve. And then day two, just same thing again. Focus on getting through the day without eating any carbs or sugar and just keep going like that until you no longer have the cravings. Bob.
Yeah, that's all very great advice. And then salt.
Mm,
The best way to crush a craving in the right now, take a pinch of salt, throw it on your tongue, go out for a 10-minute walk. Most of the time, that will crush the craving down.
mm, mm, mm,
And if it comes down to it that you've got to eat something, have boiled eggs, bacon, hamburger patties already cooked in your fridge. Look at those. If you're hungry enough to eat those, if you look at it and go, "Oh, I'm hungry, but I don't want any of that," you're not really hungry. You're fighting a craving. So, for carb sugar addiction in general and cravings for carbs, just eat another chunk of steak, have a few
mm.
boiled eggs, have a couple of pinches of salt, whatever it is. And eventually you'll get so stuffed on protein and fat that that'll squash down the craving as well.
Mm. And AIDS has a Python-esque suggestion. You could super glue your lips together. Um,
I don't
so,
recommend that one. It would
but
work, but
yeah.
I don't recommend it.
So guys, we're at the top. We're at the half past mark. So we will leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for coming in. And we've had over 130 people in the stream at the highest part, which was great. Thank you so much for that. And we will probably see you in a couple of weeks. Bob.
Yes, I'll see you in a couple of weeks because even if I have to pull off to the side of the road, having tested my Starlink, I now know I can just pull off to the side of the road and get hooked up on the internet. So I will see you in a couple of weeks, Dave. Don't forget, guys, get out there, be 1% better today, tomorrow, every day.
Cheers, guys.
Push the